Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Bitterwoods, The Battle of the Bulge Designer Edition, second printing. This is a game designed by Randy Heller and published by Compass Games. So yeah, I've added another Bulge game, but one of the coolest things about this game right away is the cover. It reminds me of an old Tamiya King Tiger kit that I've seen in the past. I actually have, I think, somewhere in my stash in the closet. I have yet to build, but pretty cool art on the front. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. It says here, on December 16th, 1944, Germany launched its last desperate offensive in the West. The result was the Battle of the Bulge, a brutal struggle in a dismal winter landscape set against an enemy imbued with a fanatic conviction that victory could be snatched from defeat. It was the United States Army's greatest and fiercest battle of World War II. Over 1 million men and thousands of guns, tanks, and other fighting vehicles were engaged in those bitter woods, fighting against heavy odds. The American soldier slowed and then stopped the spearhead of two elite panzer armies, forever emblazoning themselves in the annals of military history. Compass Games presents the designer edition of this Charles S. Roberts and Origins Award nominee. New to this edition are enlarged color unit counters, additional scenarios, and an extended campaign game to allow the Allied counterattack to be fully realized. In addition to the 6- and 8-turn tournament games, Patton's famous Relief of Bastogne can be recreated via scenario play. Specific rules include mechanized exploitation movement, hidden fuel dumps, leader units, reserves, random events, bridge demolition, conf group Piper breakout, scores any infiltration, air power, and artillery support. And it says here the playing time is less than 5 hours up to about 12. At least that's what it looks like here for the scenarios. Complexity is 5 out of 10. Solitaire suitability is 7 out of 10. Comes with 480 5/8 inch counters and two 22 by 30 inch maps. It is for 2 to 4 players, regiment to brigade scale, 2-mile hexes, and approximately 12 hours per turn. This is an example of some of the counters in the game, and look at the map. So let's take a look inside and see what you get. So we get a Compass catalog, full color catalog to check out if you're looking for some other games. Our 2D6, the player handbook, the rules of play, a bunch of, looks like setup counters and player aids. Well, here's the player aids here. We get our 3 counter sheets and our map. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. All right, so here's a look at the map that comes with Bitterwoods. I can't spread it all the way out. I can't get it all in frame, so I'm just gonna kind of compress it a little bit, let you see it. It's the Bulge, it's the Ardennes, so you're gonna be familiar with, pretty much it's gonna be a lot of towns, and you're gonna have a lot of woods, light woods, heavy woods, and roadways. So you get an idea what it looks like here. The art on the map. On the left-hand side, when you turn it around, you're going to have your terrain effects chart that's going to be broken out in 2 different tables. Then you have your bridge demolition table and the turn record track over here, and then a supply shortage table up at the top that you're going to be able to maintain, keep track of everything all in one spot. Whereas, like with Ardennes, when we looked at Ardennes 44, they had separate tables for that and separate handouts. Here, it's going to be all on the map for you. All right, so here are the setup cards. This is for the Allied order of appearance. You have the American units in green and the, believe it or not, the British in red. We're used to seeing Soviets in red, but you can tell it's not Soviets because there's good old Monty over here. German order of appearance, where you have your Fallschirmjägers, you have your Wehrmacht units and SS units in their standard colors from that we're used to. Then you have Plan Martin setup card, the expansion setup card, or the expansion card when you have the extended campaign track, which will kind of extend things off here on the map that we already looked at. Then you have the Erasing the Bulge scenario instructions, Erasing the Bulge setup card for the Allies and for the Germans, and then Patton's Relief of Bastogne scenario setup card. And that is all of these setup cards that you get with the game. Then we get a pair of player aids, the terrain effects chart on the one side, giving you the movement cost, combat effects, and notes for each of the pieces of the terrain on the map, and the combat results table and the terrain combat modifiers, non-terrain combat modifiers, the Angriff attack, and the abbreviated sequence of play on the back of that. And here is a look at the counters. You have the Americans on the right, the Germans on the left. For the tank units, they're using the tank image itself. I like that, which we talked about in Ardennes. And then we've got some SS units, more American units, some British units, and then some more British, American, and German units, as well as various administrative counters. All right, so let's take a look at the rulebook that comes with Bitterwoods. It is a 23-page rulebook. The rules themselves start off on page 2 and go through page 11, so not a really long rule book to pick up. Only 9 pages, should be pretty easy to grok. Then you have optional rules starting on page 12 through 16, so an additional 5 pages of optional rules that you can add in, I guess, as you want. Then you have 2 pages of variant rules, and you have examples of play, designer's notes, game credits. You have the component list in here, explanation of how to read the counters, the types of units in the games, the game counters, the admin counters. Then you have the player's handbook that explains additional rules specific to the extended campaign and some other information, which we'll take a look at next. Then how to prepare for play, sequence of play, movement, stacking, zones of control, improved positions and fortifications, combat, the ER bonus for endurance rating. Then you have combat losses, advanced after combat, artillery, artillery support, supply, how to check that. Then we get into German supply shortage bridges, how to blow them, how to rebuild them, reserves, how to place them, initial surprise in the game and how the surprise shift works, the allied restrictions on movement, artillery, demolition, traffic jams, victory conditions. We get to reinforcements, then victory conditions, and then we are into the optional rules on page 12, like flank attacks, SS Panzer scare, attrition, bombardments, challenging air interdiction, leader units, fuel dumps, surrender, inter-allied cooperation, random events, and then we get to the variant rules on page 16, additional random events that you can add in, and then the examples of play at the back of the book on page 20 and 21. Then we have designer's notes from Randy Heller from 22 to 23, and then we are on the back of the book, which also gives the terrain effects chart, which we saw in the player aid card. And this is the player's handbook that comes with Bitter Woods. This is does not give a page count, but take a look at the back of the book. It goes to page 23, and it gives you your different scenarios that you can play through: 6-turn scenario, 8-turn tournament scenario, and Patton's Relief of Bastogne. And then the random events that can be used for that, different scenarios that you have, the extended campaign, early Ardennes offensive scenario, and then the scenarios end on page 11. We get into the historical treatise, table of organization, then we get into the artillery of the Ardennes for the Germans and for the Americans, and then we get to the bibliography, and that is the end of the player's handbook. So it looks like a combination of scenarios with some historical notes and additional information to help you play the game. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Bitter Woods, the Battle of the Bulge Designer Edition, second printing from Compass Games. This came out last year. I was able to get a hold of a copy of it and add it to my small but growing collection of Bulge games. I was curious about this one. It seemed pretty simple. I thought it would be a complement to the Ardennes one, which looks a little bit more complex, and wanted to have both to be able to play and experience Bulge, because I really just don't have too many of those games, so it's always fun to get a couple of extras to add to the collection. Hope that helps you guys out. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.